Placing composites can be equal parts exciting and frustrating. On the one hand, you have the opportunity to hand sculpt your artistry and elevate someone's oral health at the same time. But while there have been great strides in aesthetics and functional properties of our resins, I've not yet met the filling material that has that ideal handling property that we're looking for. Let's face it, placing composites can feel like spreading cold, chunky peanut butter across a thin piece of Wonder Bread. If you don't apply enough pressure, the resin just sits there like an immovable lump. If you add layer after layer, you can incorporate air bubbles and imperfections. Then after adding that 6th layer of composite, you go to polish your masterpiece only to find that little white line that clearly shows where the layers meet. We've all been there. Another problem with composites is that they love to stick to our instruments. Even if the ideal handling characteristics could be incorporated into our resin, it still may have that annoying desire to hang onto your plastic instrument like a barnacle on a pirate ship. This is probably one of the best ways to incorporate air bubbles into your composites. What a pain. You know, this is a major problem too, because there are like 20 different tools in our armamentarium that we have that we can use to create our beautiful anterior restorations, including metal instruments, plastic instruments, disposables, and even many of us using paintbrushes. Well, I'm excited to introduce to you today a new category of resin that you're likely not familiar with, the wetting resin. Using wetting resins, you can reduce the time, energy, and tools that are required to get beautiful, more predictable restorations in less time. Using wetting resins reminds me of the time that we first painted our house. My wife and I started off with a $25 a gallon paint from Home Depot, pretty much the cheapest paint you could get. But we were frustrated after putting in 4 coats of paint and our bedroom still looked horrible. Then we complained to a friend of mine who was a painter, and she told us, well, what you use actually matters. So we bought the paint that she suggested at our local Sherwin-Williams, and man, it was so much easier. 1 coat of paint later, without the need for taping all the trim molding that we had done in the past, and our room looked fantastic. Wetting resins can do the same for your composites. So let's look at a wetting resin through our upgrade cost of upgrading framework, where C stands for clinical quality, O stands for observations by patients, and the $ or S is ROI, and T stands for team health. Well, when it comes to clinical quality, if you get a wetting resin that adds no thickness to your final restoration, like SeamFree, the product that I'll show you in a little bit, your restorations will be faster and more predictable, and much easier. In particular, you won't incorporate those nasty air bubbles into your restorations. Also, it takes less time to do the same restoration, so there's less opportunity to have unforeseen problems, like having the patient cough, which throws a wrench into our work and lowers the quality of the end results that we ultimately achieve. The lack of air bubbles and visible seams between our resin layers will lead to more aesthetic restorations, which is the big positive in your patient's observations, or the O in the cost of upgrading. When it comes to the $ or ROI in our cost of upgrading, it takes less time to do the same procedures, which means you make more money. I don't know about you, but there aren't many things that I can think of that get my blood pressure to rise more than finishing a composite only to find that there's a big white line running through it when we're polishing, and that there's air bubbles between layers. And I know I have to redo the entire process. And this is usually time that I don't have. That time saved and the lower blood pressure obviously leads to better team health, usually my health. Like I mentioned, redoing restorations just isn't something that I enjoy or have time for. And we all know that when a dentist is frustrated in the operatory, it is no place that's fun to be, right? So let's look at the results that you get over time using SeamFree wetting resin. Starting off, you're likely to save at least 15 seconds with each composite you do. If you do 8 composites a day, that means you'll save 2 full minutes a day, 30 minutes every month, and 6 hours every single year just by using a wetting resin that gets you better, more predictable results. That's even enough time to watch a whole Star Wars trilogy every single year. My personal favorite wetting resin is Vista Apex's SeamFree, for the simple reason that it adds no thickness to your restoration or seams that you can see in the final restoration. It's also completely compatible with all methacrylate materials, so you can use it ubiquitously. Another benefit of SeamFree is that a little bit goes a long way. All you need to do is place a small drop on your glove and lightly dip your instrument or brush in it. And Vista Apex has given us some great offers that we can offer you to try it out. Just click on the link around this video to find out more. For more information about technologies and learning how to upgrade your practice or procedures, go to upgradedental.com. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.